Man, I don't know about you, but I love traveling. I think it may come from my own love of learning, just seeing new things, new places, and not necessarily from like a class perspective or like from school, or from just like seeing and doing. I always wanted to be more when I was a kid, and I was always changing on what more was, whether being better at sports or being more fit, stronger, more artistic, whatever it was. I always wanted to be more. I didn't want to just be normal or kind of just boring, I guess. And I always hated being stuck in one place. Sometimes getting comfortable with one place would just make me realize how miserable I was in the moment. And I wouldn't realize it, perhaps, until I was traveling again to somewhere new, something that was showing me, I wasn't happy there. And I remember, just as a kid, I always wanted to be cool and feel important. Then moving on to high school, I didn't want to be ordinary. Instead, I was always having a feeling of wanting to be extraordinary. And that helped lead me to try and become better and to create art. And it wasn't until after, which is much more recent, because I've only been out of high school for a couple of years now, that I realized that I love creating still, but I also want to capture life and experiences and create in a way that I can be able to come back to those experiences and relive them. And so, like videography and photos, and then also with artwork, having a way to communicate what I was feeling in that moment, to come back and revisit that. But also, the part of that comes out of my desire not to just live and survive Earth, but to experience it to the full, learn from it, from experiences, from places, from cultures, and change for the better, and keep that with me as I go forward. But speaking of change, that's one thing that I've always struggled with personally. Sometimes I absolutely hate it, and then at other times I love change. And I think part of why I love change, for part of it, is travel, because travel is a way of embracing the beautiful side of change for me. I love being above the clouds and getting that window seat, just seeing a whole nother world up there. It's gorgeous, really. Perhaps travel is a passion of mine, and it feels like it sometimes. I just love meeting places, people, all kinds of different cultures. I don't like just staying in one place for too long. As a kid, I grew up in multiple houses. After I moved to Uganda, I never stayed in one house for more than 2 or 3 years. So I never got too comfortable with just one place. And then friends were always coming and going, so yeah, I didn't have a ton of friends that I could say I was super tight with for a while. But really, for me, experience is what I love when I travel. Just living fully and enjoying as many of the moments there as possible, and just seeing how beautiful life really is. I remember, however, when I was 8, my parents told me that we were moving to Uganda, and I hated the thought of it. I absolutely dreaded it as a little kid. It wasn't like every night, but a lot of nights I cried myself to sleep. But I wanted to stay, tough, be the tough guy. So I never told anybody. And I loved what little life I had in that teeny town of Dufur, Oregon. Still love it, but it made me bottled up from back then. And I've seen so much more of life now. And even though I hated the thought of traveling, it was the best thing that could have happened to me. It showed me up to so many different ways. It opened up my perspective from what would have been a small little box, and showed me how big the world was and how beautiful it was. It made me come across so many awesome people that I can still call my friends today. And I can look back at my memories and photos and see how awesome those experiences really were. But with change also comes with the ugly side. You have to give up things, and you lose them permanently. You lose time, you lose people, you lose places. And even if you go back, people have changed. Time's gone on, they've gotten older, they've had new friends. The places aren't the same. Some people leave, some places change, and the feeling just ultimately isn't the same. And above all, I come to realize that I've changed. Sometimes not for what I wanted. And I can only just come to grieve in those moments for what I loved, what I knew in that moment. And all you can do is just look back, reminisce, and move on. Embracing change is mandatory. I think that's why I hate it at times, because I can't do anything against it. I just gotta let it happen. But at the same time, change opens up to new experiences and people. And maybe not everything that once was lost. You can still preserve it in memories and in photos and videos. I think that's partly why I love art so much, in the sense of visual communication. It's very important to me. I see the beauty behind the artist's work. I see the artists themselves at times, parts of them anyways, depending on what they decide to communicate. And sometimes I see parts of their past. And in my own work, I can go back and view my pieces and kind of see what life was like for me in that moment. By my own memories, because it brings up other memories that I had. And some of the parts are just really important. Most of my pieces don't have much meaning behind them, but some do. And some really give me a great memory of what it was. And when I travel, I get inspired to create. So some of my favorite pieces are from being in airports, seeing so many different bits and pieces of beautiful places and people. I just feel inspired to either capture part of the moment or create what inspires me from it. And I think creativity and creation is a large part of God's nature. His universe is more marvelous than I can even think about. I can't think about how beautiful it is at times. I try, but come short a lot. And he leaves so many doors open to expand and preserve the beauty that's already here. And when it comes to life, I definitely want to be satisfied with how I live at the end of it. In the end, I want to come to heaven's doorstep and say I lived it to the fullest. And I hope that God says, well done, good and faithful servant. And then he lets me in and lets me experience the beauty of what's next infinitely.